So let's try to grade today's defense witnesses in the Derek Chauvin trial for the murder of George Floyd. Who won the day on the justice scorecard? Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So we are in the thick of the defense case in the Derek Chauvin trial for the murder of George Floyd. And let's do a quick recap of today's defense witnesses and see if the defense really scored any points. So the first couple of witnesses were a police officer and an EMS worker who dealt with George Floyd in connection with a 2019 arrest when he reportedly had ingested some drugs, some opiates. And that arrest proceeded largely without incident. There was no excessive force used against George. George wasn't killed. Things kind of went the way many arrests go in this country every day. So did the defense really score any points off of those first two witnesses? No, we will award the defense 0 points for those witnesses. How about the next witness? Shawanda Hill, a friend of George Floyd's who was in the car with George and Maurice Hall when the police came up to the car. And she said George had fallen asleep. He kind of nodded out in the car. He was sleepy. What else did she say? She said that day George was happy. George was normal. George was talkative. George wasn't experiencing any shortness of breath or in distress for any reason before he was killed. So I would award -1 point to the defense for proving to everybody that George was maybe sleepy, but obviously just fine, not in medical distress, before the officers got their hands on him. How about the next witness, Officer Peter Chang? He was an officer from a different police force, the Park Police in Minneapolis, and he came upon the scene and provided some assistance, basically controlling the scene. He entered George Floyd's name into a database to see if he had any open warrants, that sort of thing. And what Peter Chang said was, I was concerned for officer safety. Why? Because there was the angry mob there, the threatening crowd. The angry mob? You mean this angry mob? So here's the thing. When Peter Chang, in knee-jerk fashion, spits out concern for officer safety, when frankly these officers were not in a lick of trouble. No threat to them at all. What does that say? It says that this officer used a catchphrase to try to excuse excessive force by claiming concern for officer safety when under the facts and circumstances of this arrest, this excessive force incident, there really were no legitimate concerns for officer safety. And frankly, him spitting out that catchphrase does a disservice to incidents where there's actual concern for officer safety, because officers put themselves in harm's way every day to protect and serve the citizens, the good officers. And by Officer Chang saying, I was concerned for officer safety, it felt like a pretext to try to excuse what we all know was excessive force. -2 points to the defense for the testimony of Officer Peter Chang. And then the last witness of the day was a use of force expert named Barry Bod, who said, all of this force, it was just fine. Nothing excessive about it. Well, if you look him up, you'll see he's testified exactly that way on behalf of other police officers who ended up being convicted of murdering a citizen by using excessive force. But even more importantly, he comes in and offers these opinions, and one, they contradict the top brass of the Minneapolis Police Department, like Chief Arredondo and Lieutenant Zimmerman, who came in and said, we know our use of force policies here in Minneapolis, and this was excessive, unreasonable, improper, deadly force. So that's one problem. The other problem is we see the force with our own eyes on the video. We can assess it as excessive, as unreasonable, as deadly. So he's contradicting what we all see on that videotape. And then he had some real beauties. Here's one of the lines that use of force expert Barry Bod spit out. Police officers don't have to fight fair. They're allowed to overcome your resistance by going up a level. I would agree. They can overcome the resistance of a citizen by going up a level. But police don't have to fight fair. Probably not the best piece of expert testimony I've ever heard. So I would say -1 point to the defense for testimony like police don't have to fight fair and all of this force is just fine by me, says use of force expert Barry Bod. Well, folks, we will stay on the George Floyd Justice Watch every day during the defense case until the case gets submitted to the jury, which it looks like will be Monday, because that's when the judge has set closing arguments for Monday. In the meantime, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.